tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled is actress Rain Pryor and musician David J. Actress, writer Rain Pryor grew up in Beverly Hills. She's been working in the business from the time her father, actor-comedian Richard Pryor, gave her a colored afro wig and a toy called Mr. Microphone. She's been a regular on ABC's Head of the Class. She's worked on lots of TV shows. She's appeared in independent films, and she spent lots and lots of time on the stage. You have a great voice.
Thank you.
She has a wonderful sense of humor, and she has perfect timing.
Thank you.
How did you actually start in show business?
I think when I first came out of the womb.
Oh,
Yeah. I think I came out singing or dancing or something,
So that was where you started.
That's exactly where it started. They knew. She was going to be a performer,
So you had already that kind of
already. I mean,
New Yorkies.
I did it. My grandfather was Danny Kaye's manager for 35 years.
Well, so there you were in the business.
Yeah.
So did that help you? Your father was in the business.
I don't know if it helped me.
I'm wondering, did it hamper you?
I don't know if it hampered me. I don't know if it helped me. I think, I don't know. I think it might have opened some doors, but not enough.
But once they opened the doors, did they expect something out of you?
I think everyone expected me to be a stand-up comic, and I was like, no, that's not what I do. Because I think people forget, too, my influences are people like Lily Tomlin, Bette Midler. Because that's a lot of what I grew up on.
But singers and
comedian actors, right? Yeah. One-person performers.
Yeah.
Performance artists like Holly Woodlawn.
Yeah.
People like that. It's like that's the generation and the types of people I grew up around. So that's the type of performer I wanted to be.
Well, did you take acting lessons?
No.
You didn't?
I did not.
How do you
but
get
later
your timing?
I think, I think that is a gene thing. I think I definitely got that from my mother and my father, from my mom doing stand-up for so many years.
Your mother also did stand-up?
Yeah, for a very long time.
But I really didn't go into your mother's background because I didn't realize that she was also part of show business.
Oh, yeah.
I knew your grandfather was really behind the scenes with a brilliant actor, right?
Right.
Did you know him?
Did I know Danny Kaye? Yes, Danny Kaye made me sushi. He was an amazing sushi chef, by the way.
He was a great chef, right? Cook?
An amazing chef. So that I remember, that's how I remember Danny Kaye,
But then what about music? Was there music in your family?
You know what? No, but a lot of music was played in my family. Actually, Miles Davis was my babysitter when I was about 3 years old, if I recall correctly. So I remember Miles playing the horn for me.
Does that count?
I think it counts. I mean, it is music.
I think it counts.
Yeah. And also too, surrounding my dad, there was the Quincy Jones, there were the Herbie Hancocks, there were, but
actually musicians. Do you play an instrument?
Actually, I can sort of, kind of, that's how I like to put it, play the piano. I play enough to write music. I'm not a pianist.
But do you write music?
Yeah, I do actually.
So if you sit at the piano, you can pick out a...
I can pick out a song, and I can definitely hum a tune and then go, hey, what about this?
But the voice, did you take voice lessons?
I studied opera when I was 13 years old.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
So that gives you the depth.
I think so, yeah.
Much different than,
I loved opera. I mean,
where did you study?
I studied with Seth Riggs, and I think
Seth Riggs, the great Seth Riggs.
This is great Seth Riggs, even though we talked through my whole session, but
he taught opera.
But he taught, yeah.
I didn't know that.
And he sent me to I saw Faust. I was in love. Yeah. Madame Butterfly. I mean, you know, here I am, this 13-year-old, and I loved opera. While everyone else is going to rock concerts, you know, seeing Michael Jackson, I'm listening, you know, Madame Butterfly.
That was so great. I really didn't know that about Seth.
Yeah.
I thought he was just popular.
But he was.
Singing.
But he is mostly popular.
Yes.
I wanted to study opera.
And so he did it for you.
Yeah. And then I
That's
went
a
on to
true
the pop
teacher,
thing, right?
isn't it?
Yeah,
he can
it
do
is.
anything. You have been on so many stages. I want to just talk about it because it seems like your career is lopsided stage-wide. Is it? Or
is.
did you do more TV and
You know
stuff?
what? I have definitely done more stage than
Because
TV.
we love stage. You worked on the Coronet,
Yes,
at the Coronet Theater,
and Regina Monologues.
and the Pasadena Playhouse.
Yep, with Sisterella.
And you were the
I was the evil
Sisterella.
stepsister. Yeah, I was the lovely evil stepsister. I always
You
get
were-
the fun roles.
you were in La Jolla, the La Jolla Playhouse.
Yeah, and the Who's Tommy.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So you had really major singing roles.
You know, I did, but what's funny is I more had character singing roles.
Oh,
You know, this
does
is-
that change the?
I think it changes because I think, let's say, as in my show, you know, Fried Chicken and Latkes, it's
Yeah,
the
I'm going to
first
just
time.
hold this up because this is you funny. This is you
You know,
funny.
A lovely artist too. A friend of mine named Penny Prince did that. Which
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
That's
so
nice.
It's like, you know,
I'm
her
so
stuff.
glad you used illustration because Gregory Weir-Keaton did these illustrations.
Yeah, which are beautiful.
And people don't do illustrations anymore. So I was glad to see that on your program.
Yeah. You know, I and also too, just speaking of illustration, I just think it really captures the soul more.
I do too.
You know, so.
Well, they strip your soul.
Yeah.
They actually strip you. You strip yourself on
Right.
stage in this.
Oh yeah, I do.
in
I give
this
you everything.
Fried chicken and latkes. So let's talk about it a little bit
Okay.
because there's so much to it. You start out, you're just so happy, and then you go into these like really heavy, this heavy analysis.
Well, I think, you know, my life growing up, I think I wanted really just to tell the story and the journey of how I became who I am today. And that had a lot to do with going through some dark places and dealing with some issues of race and of color and of whatever it was, you know, relationships. You know, and I think that's what I had to tell the story, you know, so you didn't have to read the National Enquirer anymore.
Why did you write it? Were you going to write a book? Were you going to do something else? Were you going to write a movie?
No, for the last 10 years, I've wanted to do a one-person show, and I was actually in fear of doing one because I thought, how could I do this? How could I write it? You know, I'm not a writer. You know, and my family, my mother, my father, and
Did
now
they
my
help you?
husband encouraged me.
They encouraged you,
Yeah.
but they didn't help you
Nobody
write.
helped me write anything.
Did you remember all of those things that you put into it? Or did you say, go to your mom and say, did this
Actually,
happen?
you know, it started off as a cabaret. I did cabaret, you know, for a very long time in the supper clubs.
Well, it almost is cabaret on stage,
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
I think there's more depth to it. I liked it better than cabaret because, I don't know, you didn't sing as much as cabaret,
Right.
you talked more.
Right. But
know,
but
it was
that's
a
who I
nice-
am. I think that's why I wanted to combine the whole Bette Midler meets John Leguizamo. You know,
But it was a nice balance, so you get a little bit of everything.
I think so too.
And so
yeah.
tell us some more. Tell us when you talked about the
The struggle of the black and,
and the
white.
stripe down the middle. Am I this? Am I white on this
Right.
side? Black on that side?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite lines actually lately, which is a new added line, is the part where I do the Stanislavski's method acting that I studied Stanislavski, you know, in my Black and Jewish and Black and Jewish, Black and Jewish. yeah. You know, because I think I had to deal with that of finding out who I was, and I was a chameleon for a long time. I went through the whole punk rock scene when punk rock was real punk rock. I mean, as opposed to now, you know, when the Sex Pistols really were the Sex Pistols.
And
you
they
know, it was
were
like
involved
70s.
in-
I was into punk, you know,
Yeah,
and
you
I was
came
like
out of
you know,
opera.
9.
You came out
Right.
of opera into punk. It's
Yeah,
just like,
you know,
what is she
a little
doing?
crazy, yeah.
So how did you actually start writing it? Did you actually say,
I started
this is
write-
a one-woman play and I'm going to write it?
I actually started to write it really as a therapy exercise. My therapist gave me to just talk about my family. And out of that, all these characters started to come out because I think I express myself better when I can become someone else. You know, and that's how it started to germinate and begin to grow.
Well, if you were doing it for a therapist, how honest can you then be on the stage for the audience?
You know, I think for the most part, I'm pretty honest. And also then I do have judgment on the fact that I think some of it is not meant for the stage. Some of my life is not meant for the stage.
So
Maybe it's meant for a book or a movie, but it's not meant for stage.
So you kind of edited yourself or filtered out what you
filtered out what I thought was important.
Because too personal or not too personal? What do you think?
Just not necessary in the journey.
I see.
I think
You had your idea of where you were going.
exactly. And
Did you feel like two different people? Do you still feel like two different people?
you know what? No, I have grown enough to know that, and not to say with ego, but to say that I feel like a black, Jewish, beautiful woman today. You know, I'm all those things that made me.
When you were doing that, when you were like growing up, were you flaunting, hey, I'm black, or hey, I'm Jewish?
I think I did both. It depended. Like if I was around the white kids, I was Jewish. I really thought that was important in order for me to fit in.
To be a part
You know,
of.
if I was around the black kids, I was like black, and no, I wasn't Jewish, but I was black. Okay, you know. So
But see, that was what was so cute, is the way you could do that and make fun both way, or not really make fun, but characterize it.
right, because life is, I think, a bunch of characterizations. I think everyone is a character, you know, and I think that's part of what the show is. It's that growth.
And
you
that
know.
show, because fried chicken,
Latkes, yes.
tell us, fried chicken was from your
from
grandma.
my dad, right? From my dad's from my dad's grandmother, my great grandmother, Mama, you know, who taught me how to make a wonderful fried chicken, by the way. And then on my mother's side, you know, the potato latkes and the matzo ball soup, and you know, to speak Yiddish, it's fabulous.
Did you? So you got that all down.
I
And
have
it was
it all
at
down.
the
I'm a
Cannon-
great cook, by the way. I will make my husband very fat in later years.
Oh,
I know
good.
it.
Do you guys exercise?
I do.
Do you?
You know, his whole thing is, you know, that's about as much exercise as he gets.
Do you have a
know.
regular routine during the
I
day?
do. You know, I do. I do Pilates. And,
Do you?
Yeah.
And
on
then
the
you get
video,
up-
mind you.
Do you? But you get up in the morning and you
Some days.
when you're on the stage, like at the Cannon.
When I'm on the stage, I'm too tired to work out the rest of the week.
Are you?
I'll tell you, that night for the rest of the week drains me. I'm very drained because I am giving you 100% of myself. And I think it's, you know, it's like, whew, you know, when
Doesn't
I'm
you're
done.
like really exhausted?
Yeah, and I'm very excited now to do the Friday and Saturday
You're
nights.
going to do two shows. I mean,
shows a
one after
week.
the other. So you were exhausted after one, which you were
One,
doing in the
right.
middle of the week. Now at the Cannon, you're going to be doing
To
two.
two.
So how will you recover, do you think?
You know what? I think it's going to be a lot of sleep for me, and just, you know, nurturing myself. I think that's what I have to remember, is just constantly nurturing myself.
And if you don't plan anything, I guess, like on Saturday,
Right, exactly.
you go to the studio really. I mean the
This
early.
stage, right?
Do you go
yeah.
early?
I'm one of those people. I like to go early and like meditate on the stage.
Do you?
know?
Do you
Yeah.
know that?
I'm such a theater
This
person.
is good. This is good. I think we're going to come early, and we'll like slip in. We'll watch you meditating. We'll get into the whole thing.
Exactly. I'll bring you into the whole world.
Rain Pryor, I'm so glad you were here.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I'm
You're
really
lovely.
glad that you all watched her. And don't go away, because we're going to be back with musician David J.
Wonderful.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back. Musician David J. was born and raised in the English Midlands. By the late 60s, he went to a posh English public school. To us in the U.S., that's a private school. To keep him from becoming a rock star, or from becoming a person in a rock band, his family sent him to the art school, a very good art school. You liked it, right, David? But it didn't keep you out of rock.
It didn't. Actually, this is for you, Joan.
Oh, no. Am I going to wear this?
It's going to go great with the blue.
Oh, God. Thank you, David. Oh, it's so,
It's you.
so Miss Piggy.
I wouldn't say that.
Anyway, so what happened? What happened in art school?
I only went to the posh school for 2 years.
Yes.
But before then, I went to some pretty rough schools. So it was great because, you know, I had the whole gamut of education, you know. And then I went back to an ordinary school.
Oh.
And then I had a meeting with, they call them a careers officer in England, to decide, you know, your ultimate vocation in life, which by that time I'd already decided was I wanted to be in a rock band.
Yeah,
you
but
know.
here, how old were you?
I was 16.
Yeah, so here you're planning your future and they didn't want you to do that?
Well, I mean, I can understand why they thought it was, you know, probably not a sensible idea. Of course it wasn't sensible, but it was what I wanted to do.
Exactly.
And I was really serious about it.
Yeah.
So they said, well, really you only have one option, art school.
Oh.
And that was great for me because I loved art, you know. And really that was the first thing I wanted to do from when as far back as I could remember, was be an artist.
Oh.
And draw or paint or do something in the arts, you know.
So it didn't keep you out, obviously. It probably helped you.
Well, it did because, I mean, it's traditionally a breeding ground for rock musicians, you know, and reprobates.
So it was
in the arts, you know.
reprobates. But so it was really good for you. That was a good place for you to be.
It was perfect, yeah.
Were you playing the guitar at that time?
I was trying.
Did you take lessons?
I took just a couple of lessons, yeah.
But aren't you a renowned bassist?
Well, I
Yes.
wasn't then, you know, but I became the bassist because nobody else wanted to play bass.
Oh,
Everybody
so-
wanted to be the lead guitar player and show off, but
Oh, is that what happens?
but I immediately sort of felt drawn to the bass and that being that anchor, and some of the earliest music that ever stirred me was reggae.
Oh,
This
so
was
it
around
had
about 1970.
the beat, huh?
Yeah, and the bass. Although I at the time I didn't think of it as bass. It was just this great deep sound.
Yeah,
and it
that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Very primal. And then later on, I found out, oh, the instrument that makes that sound is a bass. So
That's
that's
what it
for
was.
me, you know.
So by 1978, you formed Bauhaus,
Yeah.
which was extraordinary.
In retrospect, I suppose it was. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can look back on it now because we're talking about 78. How long did it last? Almost 10 years.
Well, no, I have to correct you there because it lasted 4 years.
Oh, that's all?
'Cause we split up in '83, and then we did a reunion tour
Oh,
in
that's what-
'98. You see, just a tour.
But how'd you get along when you went back together?
It was very fractious, you know. But it's real love and hate, and it always was back in the day. It was like that, but that's what fueled it.
The love and hate?
Yeah, it's a very volatile chemistry.
What?
You know?
I'm taking this off now because you know it's getting very hot, and I think it belongs to you
No, it
because
belongs
we're
to
going to
you.
start to
Belongs to
we're going
you.
to talk. We're going to talk about some of these other things you've done because obviously, did you wear this in Bauhaus?
Only on the last tour. That's where it started.
It started.
That's where it
with
all
this.
started.
It
yeah.
started here. So what did you actually wear on stage?
Oh, the requisite, all in black, you know.
Oh, but not with this.
Yes.
Oh, with this.
Well, we were gifted by our crew with boas,
I see.
and then we incorporated them
I see.
into the act.
I see. That's great. Okay. So what were the defining qualities in Bauhaus
Well,
in the band?
see, I was the last to join, although it really started in the punk days, and I saw the Sex Pistols in '76,
Yeah.
and the Clash were playing their first gig in London on the same bill, and that was the moment where, for the first time, I was seeing a band that was my own age to start off with,
Oh, I see.
who only had a limited amount of ability, and they were singing about my life and my friends' lives, you know, and it was so different and real.
Today, it was like happening, right? It was
Yeah,
like
and
something
it was
that happening.
suddenly feasible that you could really do that yourself. And that night I formed a band with my brother, who's 3 years younger than me. I was 19, and then later on Daniel Ash, who was later the guitarist in Bauhaus, joined that band.
Oh.
So that
Was that Jazz Butcher?
No, it was called the Submerged Tenth,
Oh dear.
which means the lowest of the low.
The lowest of the lows. But but that was at what time are we talking now?
76,
Oh,
77.
and then you started Bauhaus. Then you went on to Jazz Butcher.
That was a brief drunken interval.
Were they well known?
They had a growing reputation in the pubs.
Well, did the music change from what you were doing when you went to pub life?
Yeah, because I mean, I really came in as a producer for that, and all the songs were written by the Jazz Butcher, Pat Fish.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
So it was a different kind of music then?
Yeah, although there were certain common influences, like the Velvet Underground was a big one, Jonathan Richman, you know, and also the punk thing. You know, that was such
still
a
continuing the
seminal
punk thing.
Influence.
That was still doing it, even when you went to Love and Rockets.
Oh yeah, and it's still there for me now. And the thing I do on stage now it's called Cabaret Oscuro, and it's gone into this cabaret area, but.
Well, tell us a little bit about that, because that's kind of interesting. Are you still playing and singing, but you're doing it different?
I'm playing less and less guitar, and that's been very liberating for me to put the guitar down and not have to hide behind it.
And then with the cabaret, then do you talk more?
Yeah.
You tell stories?
And that's evolving. And it really is, it's drawing from the cabaret of the 20s and 30s in Berlin, Weimar, Paris.
Yes, well, that's Estranged. Is that your...
That's another side. It gets very complicated.
Well, tell us to finish that, and because I thought Estranged went from Nashville to Berlin, is how you say it in the press release.
Yeah.
That's your new CD, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Well, with the cabaret, to me, it's at its core, it's still punk. It's punk cabaret.
Is it still?
And I see a real affinity with punk, you know, in its true sense, and the true cabaret, because I think both were very volatile and visceral, and it was all to do with pricking inflated, you know,
but
egos.
Rebellion, no?
Definitely rebellion.
Do you think cabaret is kind of rebellious?
It's definitely, that's what it was all about, you know, and it was questioning the status quo and pulling the rug from under the feet of the politicians.
Are we talking about English cabaret?
No, we're talking about Berlin cabaret.
Berlin cabaret. I can see
and
what
Paris.
Okay, I can see that now, because it's more questioning what's going on.
Yeah, although in England, I mean, there's an earlier tradition of the music hall.
That's what I was thinking
which
of,
that has certain affinities with cabaret, and that was cheeky. It was sardonic, satirical. Yeah. And that is all in the mix there.
It's funny, because I don't think we think of that, the European cabaret, the way we do it in the U.S., which is like telling your life story, singing a few songs, It's
more show.
It is.
Yeah.
But this is more politically, as you say, pricking.
It has an edge.
That's very interesting, yeah. So then, Endangered, the new CD?
Estranged.
Oh, Estranged. Endangered.
Endangered.
It's endangered.
Endangered could be another title for it.
Estranged.
In parenthesis, endangered.
Estranged. I think it's a funny story how you actually got it going, because eBay came into this project.
Yeah, my savior.
How did you think of that?
It just came to me, light bulb moment, you know, because I was in a situation where I wasn't signed and I didn't have the funds. I'd made some money from the Bauhaus reunion tour, but I'd set that aside because of the vicissitudes of this business. You never know where the next penny is coming from.
And you actually recognized that?
It's taken me some time, but it's sunk in, you know, eventually. And I set that aside really to look after the family, you know, and have it there to pay the rent, etc. You know.
Yeah. So you did.
I
think about
can't touch that. That's in the pot. So I had to raise alternative funds for this recording of a record, and so I just thought eBay.
But had you written the record? Had you written the songs yet? Were you very far along?
No, not at all. I hadn't started it, but I wanted to make a solo record, and so I thought, I've got all this memorabilia in the garage, you know, just sitting there, going back, that kind of stuff. Yeah, everything, instruments, you know, old shirts,
and so you
set
sold
lists.
It all?
Most of it, yeah, and it went, nearly all of it went, and I raised enough to record the whole album and master it.
And so then did you start writing the music, or did you actually put it together? Because the opening, I think, is the Guitar Man.
The Guitar Man.
Yeah.
Once I had the money, I started working on it, but it turned out to be something that I hadn't planned, and I went through a very hard period where I was estranged from my dear soulmate.
Oh, estranged.
That's where the title comes from, and I wrote the songs and recorded them in the heat of that experience, and they became a way of dealing with that situation and also ultimately mending it, fixing it. And then I returned, and it's like a cycle.
Full circle, huh?
Yeah.
But you have songs that are familiar to all of us, songs that were popular songs on there.
Just the one, just the
Just
Guitar
the
Man
one.
is the cover.
Why did you start with that?
It was just going around in my head. It was one of my earliest musical memories, because my dad used to have this Bread 8-track
Oh,
cassette that he used to play in his car, and I love that song. And I don't know, it just, like all my covers, they just come to me kind of out of the blue. And I think, oh, that would be good to do.
can you sing it?
Not without musical accompaniment.
But I mean, can't you do? You do sing it.
I do sing
You
it.
do sing it, right?
But I was thinking, who exemplifies the guitar man that's described in the story? And it's a very melancholic figure who's, to me, my interpretation is that he was a junkie, you know, and he's been up there and he's like coming down, he's on a downslide, but he's still got this soul and this music in him, and he has to play. And I thought of Dave Navarro from Jane's Addiction.
Right.
Not that he's on a downslide, very, far from it. He's
But he
really
had
he's
that
in a very happy, golden place at the moment. But he's been through that. He's had those experiences.
And you were looking for soul. You were
Yeah.
looking for something soulful.
Yeah, and also just somebody who's just a kind of rock god, really. You know, and he is that.
Yeah.
And he just came in and did it in 2 takes, and I got Steve Perkins from Jane's Addiction to come play the drums. But I didn't know that they had a reunion tour, and they'd had a bit of a falling out on the tour. And this was the first time they'd been together since the end of that tour.
So you brought them together.
Yeah, and they kissed and made up in the studio, and then we recorded the track, so it's got a real feel to it.
Oh, that's so good. So we have to say estranged. Our time ran out. But I'm glad you told us that whole story, because what I wanted to really know is where David J. came from, David Haskins.
Oh, it's just very simple. I mean, it's just my showbiz name. It's just got more of a ring to it. David J. J is for John, my middle name.
Oh, okay. Pretty easy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, David J.
Thanks, Joan.
And thanks for the little boa.
I wish you well to wear it.
And thanks to all of you for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles. Keep writing to 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, 90017, Los Angeles.